What's up, y'all? It's your boy Flacco. I'm here at the Go Power Sports headquarters, and you may be wondering what's your next mini bike. Well, I believe I have what you need. Today, we're here to talk about and assemble our Rascal Lite. I'm telling y'all, super easy to assemble. Kids can do it, from older people, from ladies, from men, from women, to boys, to girls, everybody. You can do this. That's what we're here today to do. So we're gonna go over to R&D. We already got one over there set up. I'm gonna show y'all step by step on how I like to assemble the Rascal Lite. Hope y'all stay tuned. I hope this helped y'all. Let's get it. All right, so I know a lot of y'all may be wondering, why the Rascal Lite? In my opinion, I feel like this is one of the best bikes to start with in the game. You can get super creative. They come raw steel, so when it comes to the powder coating and the coloring and the paint and the Cerakoting, that's all on you. And this all can be done in the afternoon. Most importantly, if you are in anywhere in the lower 48 states of the United States of America, there will be free shipping. So y'all make sure you stay tuned. Let's get at it. The Rascal Lite kit will come with all the parts and components you need to build your new mini bike. All you need is time and a couple tools to get up and running. The kit includes the infamous Rascal frame, 12-inch vintage handlebars, 98cc gasoline engine, front and rear 6-inch wheels, tires, and axles. Rear brake disc, 75 tooth, number 35 sprocket, 12 tooth, number 35 clutch, number 35 chain, clutch guard or clutch protector, throttle assembly, that's throttle housing, dummy grip along with the cable, CT100 Coleman seat, handlebar style kill switch, chain roller, handlebar risers, kickstand, foot peg grips, and most importantly, brake assembly. That's caliper bracket, brake lever, brake cable, along with the caliper. All right, so now that everything looks to be here nice, safe, and sound, let's go over a quick rundown of the tools we'll be using in this build. All right, so now that we got all of the parts and components of our kit, we went over our tool list. Let's get started on the build. So y'all can see now I got my Rascal frame up on the table. I'm gonna start the assembly by installing our neck bushings. By doing so, I have one of the bushings on the neck bolt itself. I'm gonna insert it into there. I'll use the nut and the actual bolt itself to pull in the bushings. So go ahead and place your 3/4 nut and washer on the bolt. I'm gonna use a 3/4 inch wrench to hold the top of the bolt. Then I use a 3/4 inch socket to actually drive and pull the bushing in. Just like so. Should get the bushing down nice and snug. You'll remove your nut. And remove your bolt. Grab bushing number 2, and you'll repeat the same steps from the bottom. I'm gonna hold the head of the bolt. It can be kind of funky driving it out. What you do, tap it out most of the way. The guy fall right out for you. Now that we got our neck bushings installed, let's go over to our seat. We'll get our seat holes drilled and matched up. Let's get it. All right, y'all, so next, we're gonna be using the silver Sharpie marker, taking our CT100 seat matching, marking, and drilling the holes in accordance to our Rascal frame. So what I'm gonna do, set my frame up there, give it a nice calculated eyeball. I'm gonna be marking 2 holes up front and 1 in the rear. And make sure once you mark your first hole, try not to move your seat, because that'll make your holes off. Got my 2 dots up front, 1 dot there. And more than likely that staple's gonna give me trouble when I'm trying to drill. So just as a precaution, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that 1 staple out before I try to drill over it. I'm just gonna take my pocket knife, pop it out. Wiggle that guy out. And we have a 17/64 drill bit we're gonna be drilling the holes with. And you really don't wanna go any bigger than that. You want your seat bolts nice and tight, nice and snug. And your Rascal kit will come with these self-tapping seat bolts. And those are gonna have a 13mm head or 1/2 inch on them. So we're gonna be using the 13mm socket to install those. 13mm or 1/2 inch. In our case, we're gonna be using 1/2 inch. And I'll just start them by hand. It may be a little quicker to use the impact, but I prefer to tighten these by hand. It is soft material with the bottom of the seat being plastic. So I like to tighten them by hand just so I can physically feel how tight I'm getting them. So I don't overstrip anything or over torque anything. You just want them nice and snug, just like so. And now we got our seat installed. Let's move on. All right, so now that we got our neck bushes installed, we got our seat on this bad boy. I'm gonna get it up on a couple blocks just to get it off of flat ground so I can go ahead and put our forks on and get those bad boys installed. I'm gonna get our neck bolt removed. We have our forks. Good old American steel, made in the USA, Texas to be exact. And we're gonna have 1 washer on top of the forks. And it's kind of personal preference. You have 1 washer on top of your forks, and I like to put 1 on top of in between underneath the forks on top of the frame. So literally sandwiched in between. That'll take up a little bit more of that space, give you a nice snug fit. And just like so. And you want that other washer underneath there so you don't have any slop. And of course, the neck bolt came with 3 washers, so that 3rd washer will go underneath, along with the nylon locking nut, 3/4 socket, and a 3/4 wrench to tighten. Nice and snug. Be sure not to over tighten like this one. Can't even move the forks. So it's kind of actually good we're here. Once you get to that point, that's when you want to ditch the power tools and go with hand tools. Because obviously we got to back off that nut, but we don't want it too loose. So you kind of want to do this by hand. Just back it off a little bit, check the tension, which that feels fine, moves nice and free. At the same time, we don't have any slop. The only motion you want is left and right. You don't want any up and down motion, forward and back motion, none of that stuff. And you can even do a little tweaking on it. Once you get it loose, you may see how much you can snug it up before you meet that point where it's just not wanting to move. Me personally, I like to have my handlebars a little bit tighter, kind of minimizes some of that wobble. Now that we have our front forks on, Let's go ahead and get a set of wheels on this thing. Wheels and axles. That's what we're gonna be doing next. So next we'll move over and get our front wheel assembled and installed onto the front forks. And you see your front wheel will be the one obviously without the brake mounts or the sprocket mount. Within your hardware pack, you'll have an axle, and I already have mine labeled. You'll have an axle with a series of washers. Those washers will be used as your spacers. More than likely, you'll just split the difference of washers and put the same amount per each side. So let's get that done. And so it looks like I have 8 washers. So like I say, we're gonna split them. We'll put 4 on each side. And it helps if you keep them separated 4 and 4. Start with axle. 4 washers. And this is where it takes a little finesse. Then wheel. Second set of 4 washers. Like so. You may have to kind of pry your forks a little bit to line everything up. Once you get everything lined up, you can use a mallet or just a regular hammer. Give it a couple taps all the way through. And axle nut. Then to tighten, I'm gonna be using a 14mm socket, 17mm wrench. Snug it down, check the spin, make sure you don't have any drag. Good to go. And we'll move over to the rear wheel. So we're gonna get started with assembling our rear wheel assembly. I like to start with the brake side. Brake side is always gonna be on the right side of the bike. That means it's gonna be on the right side of the wheel. You wanna make sure that your tire pattern is facing forward when you do this. That's if you have a treaded padded tire, of course. In this case, it's a V-tread, and that's gonna apply to any mini bike. But here on this Rascal Lite today, make sure your V-tread is facing forward. We're gonna start with the right side of the wheel, and that'll be the brake side. Within your brake hardware, you'll see that you got a 6-bolt hole rear brake spacer. Go ahead and place that there, and you'll see it matches up with the wheel along with the brake disc. Brake disc will go on top of spacer, and you will use 6 of your M6 serrated bolts. And these are serrated, so you don't have to worry about using any Loctite or anything. Once you get them snug down, they shouldn't back out. So let's get them started by hand. All right, we're gonna use a 10mm socket. Get those bad boys tightened down. And remember, cross pattern, don't snug them all the way on your first round. So I'm just gonna run them down. And just kind of repeat, but this time snug them. And it's pretty much the same process for the sprocket side. So we'll start with our sprocket spacer and sprocket. Same 6 M6s. Just like so. And we'll get that back wheel assembly installed. Remember, brake is gonna be on the right side, sprocket is gonna be on the left side. You'll see that your rear wheel axle comes with 2 symmetrical spacers. So no right or wrong way to do it. And just as we did the front end with the washers, we'll do the back end same way with the spacers. So start with your axle, 1 spacer. Next spacer. Line everything up. Tap your axle through. You got your axle nut, which is a locking nut. 17 millimeter and a 14 millimeter socket to tighten. Snug it down. First you want to check for any wobbles. Make sure it's snug, no slouch, no slack. Then you want to, of course, check that spin. Make sure you don't have any drag. Nice free roll. Good to go. And that's pretty much it for assembling the back end. All right, so now that we got almost a rolling chassis, we got both wheels on, we got our seat assembled, nice and snug. We got the front end nice and snug. We're gonna come back to the front end, put our handlebars and our risers on. In doing so, start by disassembling your risers. And this is kind of one of them finesse balance things. If you have a buddy or a neighbor to help you out, that'll make a big difference. They can hold your handlebars steady while you snug your risers down, but I'm gonna show you how to do it the one-man way. We're gonna start with our bottom section of risers, top section of risers with the bolts in them. And this is my preference, this is how I do it. Like my top section on, you'll see that your bars has a contour. That contour goes to the front, obviously. Bottom section paired. Just kind of hold them together. Down in the hole. Just 13 millimeter nylon locking nuts. Get those started. Get your handlebars relatively close to where you want them, centered wise. Then go ahead and lay them down, because they're gonna fall. So you might as well lay them down. And that's if you're doing this by yourself. Now, we're gonna somewhat snug them, but not all the way. That's a 10 millimeter up top, 13 millimeter wrench at the bottom. All right, so somewhat snug. Now you can see I'm by myself and they'll stay there. And you come around to your second riser. Once again, you'll disassemble the pair. Bottom section is gonna slide underneath. And you may have to kind of lift your bars a little bit, but it's easy peasy. Line them up with the holes. Top section with the hardware, the bolts in them. Give them a bump. And I do have these lined up, so I'm just gonna tap them through. Nuts on the bottom. Now you got everything in place, somewhat snug. You wanna come back around to the front. Make sure that you're still centered. And you also wanna set the angle of your bars to your liking. I like a little bit of forward rate. It's kind of old school looking. And tightening these, you want to alternate. You don't want to snug each side down, like completely. You want to snug a little here, a little here, a little there. Object is to keep your gap on each riser, each side of the riser even. So I got a bigger gap on this side, so I'm gonna start on this side. Same thing with this side. And remember, I somewhat snugged this one first, when I installed this one originally. So more than likely, I'll be able to just snug this one up and balance out the gap. Just like so. And that's it for the handlebars. All right, so now that we got complete rolling chassis, both wheels on, seat on, handlebars and risers on. We're gonna come over to our kickstand. And your kickstand may be included with this little weld-on piece. You can kind of just disregard that. That's part of a kickstand kit that's also included with the Rascal Lite. But you won't be using that. This piece is actually already welded to your frame. If you were a do-it-yourself guy for a future project and you need a kickstand mount, Merry Christmas, it's for you. So set that to the side. You will only be using the kickstand itself, the kickstand spring, the kickstand pin, and the cotter pin, of course. So when installing that, we're gonna start by disassembling the kickstand setup. Remove the cotter pin and try to keep these nice and straight. If you keep it nice and straight, you have a way easier assembly. And this is spring loaded, so careful when removing the pin, like so. I like to start with my spring. I take my hooked end and just kind of hook around the pin on the kickstand. So behind the kickstand mount on your bike is this little pin figure. Your spring is to connect inside that pin. That's how it stays on. So that's literally what I'm gonna do behind on the back side of this lever, because y'all probably won't be able to see me doing that. So get that off. Like I say, just hook that on there. Pull down. And what I'm doing now is lining up my holes in the frame on both sides of the mount, and I'm pulling down my kickstand to line that up. Take my pin, pop that guy through. So turn that pin so that I can see the hole. And this is kind of why you want to keep that cotter pin nice and straight, because it is a snug fit. Slide that guy through there. Use needle nose pliers, give it a bend. I'm trying to keep it from spinning so I can give it a bend. There we go. And it don't have to be nothing crazy. You pretty much want a nice bend so that it can't go back through that hole. Make sure that it's clear of my spring, because they can get hung up on your spring, so make sure it ain't getting hung up. Good to go. So now, like I say, we got a full rolling chassis, and it'll even set itself up now. You can see we got our kickstand installed, and we're gonna come up with one little spot, get our engine installed. That being the 98cc. Some may call it a Coleman, some may not. I call it Coleman style. But good little power plant, so we're gonna get that installed. And remember, sprocket side, clutch side, jack shaft to the left. And you should have hardware labeled Rascal Lite EMH. And those consist of 4 each, M8 bolts, M8 serrated nuts, and 5/16 lock split washers. So we got our engine setting up there. It's just sitting there. We're gonna start with one of our M8 bolts, lock split washer. It's on top. Drop those guys in. And these split washers kind of serve a dual purpose. Just like a regular washer is gonna keep that hex head nut from tearing up the surface that it's being mounted to. And also, because it's a split washer, it's gonna ensure that these don't back out. On top of the fact that the nuts we're gonna put on the bottom, you can see those are serrated as well. Keep these hand tight. And I'm just hand tightening them from now, because we still gotta work on chain length and all that good stuff later. So we don't want this motor in a permanent position just yet. Got those guys hand tightened. Like I say, we'll come over to getting our chains, all that good jazz trim. I'm gonna go ahead and start by pushing our engine to its furthest backwards point. That's to the furthest of the rear. That's kind of tricky to say. As far as back as you can push it, that's where you want to start. We'll grab our chain and our clutch assembly bolt and get that installed. So also included in your kit, you got a 5/8 bore, number 35 pitch number 35 pitch clutch, and it is a 12 tooth. So you got a 12 tooth up front. Rear is gonna be a 75. We'll start by mounting our clutch inboard, meaning the clutch gear is gonna be facing the engine, meaning the clutch gear is inboard to the engine, and it already has a key installed and machined in the clutch itself, so no need for a key. That got slid on like so. Also included in your kit is the clutch bolt, lock washer, and clutch washer. And that's gonna be a M6 bolt, M6 lock and split washer, and an M6 flat washer. And the order they are installed is split washer first, flat washer, and that'll retain your clutch from falling off. And just like any bolt, start by hand. Make sure you don't cross thread anything, especially your crank, because that can be a death sentence. We all know that. So when installing your clutch bolt, you will need a 7/16 socket or an 11 millimeter. Sometimes 7/16 is easier to find, but both will work. And you don't want to just unload on this with your impact. I just kind of give it a couple pops. Just like so. You just want to ensure that your lock and split washer is nice and flat. Shouldn't have any play in the clutch. Nice and snug. All right, so now that we got our clutch installed, next we're gonna come down one little space. Next we'll be installing our chain tensioner. So get it assembled, and you'll see it comes with 2 flat washers, 1 on each side, and 2 locking washers, 1 on each side. That's exactly how they'll go assembled. So as you can see here, 2 on each side. I like to put the locking washer last and have it against the roller. And I'll show you why. Reason being, you want the washer with the smaller diameter to rest up against the inner race of the bearing and the inner race only. You don't want to press it up against the outer race because it'll stop it, that'll give you drag on your roller. So once again, flat first, lock washer, roller, then just as it is on the other side, lock washer, flat one. Nylon locking bolt. So you'll use a 13 millimeter socket to tighten and a 1/2 inch box wrench to hold the nut. Snug that up. Still got nice free drag. Well, got some drag is fine, but you just want to make sure that it's not stuck. If it is too much drag, it's always okay to, by hand, back it off a little bit. And you still don't have to worry about backing that nut off because you got that lock washer underneath, so it's good to go. Some of you may find that somewhat uncomfortable. If that is the case, then it's more than okay to remove one of mainly the flat washer on the nut side of the bolt, and that'll give you a little bit more threads on the nut itself, so you can run that bolt down a little bit further. But keep in mind, it is a 98 cc, so it's nothing crazy high powered, so she'll be good to go from there. Next, we'll take our chain, lay that out. Just kind of let the back end hang. Come over your tensioner, under your clutch, and back around the top of your clutch. Make sure that you're on your sprocket. When you pull there, you'll see that the clutch is turning. So now we got our chain laid up there. You'll see That chain may be slightly too long. Some people would trim this. It's really not necessary because remember, we got our engine hand tight. So what I'm gonna do, put the chain together, move that guy forward, easy peasy, no need to trim the chain. Pop our master link in, main piece, retaining brace, and retaining clip. Probably one of the most important parts of this build, make sure you put your retaining clip on in the right direction. I like to keep in mind, when I'm doing this, I like to tell myself that Pac-Man needs to run backwards. Meaning, just like Pac-Man, when he runs, he eats in that direction. Well, you want Pac-Man to run backwards. You want him to backpedal. That way, when that chain's rotating, if something hits the chain, hits that master link, it can't go anywhere. But if Pac-Man is running forward and he gets hit, he can get knocked off. So keep in mind, when putting your master link on, Pac-Man should run backwards. Just use needle nose pliers to clip that on. Pull this guy up. Make sure my tension is all the way forward, because down the line that chain will stretch a little bit. A quick way to adjust that tension in your chain is to move that tensioner back. So you want all of the adjustability in the future that you can get. So make sure that your tensioner is at the most forward position, and make sure that your engine has got a nice snug tension on it. I like to have that's probably about an inch, maybe. Yeah, it's about an inch of play. Not too tight.
It's crazy how many a lot of things can be.
Yep. And I'm not using my impact on this, obviously, because it's space. So wrenching by hand this time, fellas. And so you'll see now that I got the engine nice and snug. Chain kind of gained a little bit more slack in it. Like I was saying, a quick way to alleviate that slack is your tensioner. So you loosen that guy, go back with them a little bit, take some of that slack out. Get my inch of play, snug it back up, good to go. All right, so now we got our clutch on, we got our chain on, linked to the rear sprocket. We're gonna come over here and put our clutch cover on. And you see your clutch cover is included with a bracket. And you got 4 M8 bolts, 10mm heads. We're gonna start by assembling the bracket. The 2 outermost bolts, M8 bolts on the engine, on the side cover of it, at the top section, not the bottom, at the top. We're gonna be using those to install the bracket. And you won't be able to run these too far, because as you can see, they come with a little factory Loctite. So no need to worry about them shaking out down the line. Use a 10mm to tighten those. Nice and snug. Then that leaves the remaining 2 M8 bolts. You'll see you got 2 holes on your cover, one on the top section, one on the bottom. So one of those will line up on the bracket hole, the top one that is. Not tight all the way. Then you'll line the bottom one up on the actual block itself, right there. Snug those up. Clutch cover installed. So now we're gonna come around, get our brake caliper bracket along with our brake caliper installed, and you'll see that bracket kind of goes with the flow of the bike. It'll go on the inside of the frame like so. And you'll see that it also has 2 smaller holes and 2 larger holes. The 2 larger holes will match up with the bike itself. And as far as the smaller holes, when the bracket is installed on the bike, they'll line up with the caliper itself. So we'll start by using 2 of the M6 serrated nuts in the larger hole. And you'll see that it comes with serrated locking nuts for these. Make sure you keep those guys nice and snug. So start it by hand. Come over to our caliper. You'll have one of the M6 split washers, split locking washers, in between the caliper and the bracket itself. So we'll start with our bolts. Put a spacer there. Bolt. And a spacer there. And your caliper will line up with your disc, obviously. Started by hand, everything hand tight, lined up. I'm gonna use a 10mm socket, 10mm box wrench. I'm gonna start by tightening my bracket first. And we'll come over, tighten our caliper. Now that I got my rear caliper on, I'm gonna do some minor tweaking to it, the alignment of the caliper, and that's these 2 guys right here, the Allen head bolts. I'm using a P30 to adjust those, and what I'm doing is adjusting the alignment of the caliper, and every now and then just checking the rear drag until I get a nice, somewhat free spinning. It is normal to have some drag on the rear wheel because it is a brake. You actually want some drag on you. It makes it somewhat safe. Nice free spinning wheel. Good to go. Now that we got the caliper on, gonna set it on the ground. We'll get our brake caliper, our brake cable, brake lever, the throttle, kill switch, all that good handlebar activity. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing set on the ground and come up top. All right, so now we're up to the handlebar section. We're gonna start by getting our kill switch installed first, mainly because outside of that kill switch, you're gonna have your brake lever and that grip. So and it's kind of a pain in the butt putting this on after you put all that stuff on. So we're gonna start with our kill switch. I like to have my run button to the bottom. It's just kind of my personal preference. Some of you may do it differently. Nothing wrong with that. Slide that guy on. I'll be using the Phillips head driver to snug it up. Y'all know I love my impact. And I like to set mine as closest to the radius as I can of the handlebar. So the innermost as I possibly can. We will get our brake lever and our brake cable. Makes it easier if you go ahead and assemble the 2. And you'll line up the gaps on the on the lever itself and the barrel holder. Slide through just like so. And be sure to alternate these so now that it can't come out. Cable will rest up into there. And I'm gonna be using a 5/16 or 8mm socket. Install your brake lever. Just get these loose. Like so. Regular round. And so for now, I'm just gonna let these guys hang out because we're gonna get the bike back up on the table and show y'all how to do those hookups. But in the meantime, let's move over to our throttle. Oh, and our dummy grip. So dummy grip, it can help a lot if you use WD-40. In some cases, you can get these slid on without. I'm gonna give it a try. Get it started. Then I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Use my rubber mallet. All right, now that we got our dummy grip installed, let's come over to our throttle side. Got our throttle housing, twist throttle, and the cable itself. So start by getting that disassembled. And you'll see inside the bottom section, you'll have this little wedge piece. You'll see it sits like so. That piece is to guide the cable through. I'm gonna set that aside. Take our cable and our twist throttle section itself, just like so. That's how that fits. But before installing there, I'll just show you that because it's a little bit less confusing outside of the housing. But you're gonna start by going inside of the housing all the way through. Get that threaded in. Give yourself some slack on your cable. Then it fits like so. Like that. And you want to take that wedge piece, make sure you line it up with the cable, down into the wedge section. I'm gonna unravel this so I can pull my slack out of my cable. Like so. Make sure you pull out the slack. Get all the slack pulled out, nice and smooth. You get your top throttle section, just like so. Go all the way flush and come off a little bit. The object is not to be rested against the handlebar. So all the way flush, back off a little bit. Allen head screws. Nice and smooth. And just for the meantime, take this guy, run him down through there. Just like so. Next, we'll get it up on the table, get our kill switch connected, get our brake cable connected, along with our throttle cable. Get all that stuff connected. We should be nearing the end. All right, now that we got our all full handlebar assembly together, we're gonna come and connect all of our cables and our kill switch. I'm gonna start by trying to keep it somewhat neat. I'm gonna go ahead and throw me a zip tie here in this radius. I'm gonna come down and throw another one on this bottom radius. I'll leave some slack. Then Throw another one right here at the top of the bike spine. And one more right at the bottom of the bike spine. It doesn't have to be completely at the bottom, just top section, bottom section. Then you'll use a 5/16 socket. We're gonna use this tank bolt right here for our ground. Go back through it. Then you have this male end on your kill switch, female end on the coil, on the engine itself. You just connect the two. Make sure they're nice and snug. And that's it for your kill switch. Now, we can come around to the throttle and brake side and get those two hooked up. So when installing our throttle cable or connecting it to our engine, I'm gonna start by loosening up these two these two Phillips heads right here. This first one, it has a clamp on it. That's gonna be the cable holder. Go ahead and get it loose. The cable sleeve holder. Then the second one is the actual cable holder. Get that loose. Gonna start by going underneath the cable sleeve holder. Then go ahead and feed your cable into the cable holder itself. And then the metal eyelet on your cable is meant to be held in the sleeve holder. Go ahead and snug it down. Nice and snug. So now, make sure you got no slack. Pull that nice and snug. Make sure you got no slack in your throttle cable. If you do, go ahead and release that slack. And then snug this one up. And just be able to get it somewhat snug, like so. Now that you're for sure the cable won't move, you'll use your Allen head and a 10mm box open wrench to snug them down nice and tight. Make sure that cable don't slip back out. Just for my own personal preference or liking, I'm gonna throw a zip tie right in this mid section.
You gotta keep it looking clean.
Yeah, you gotta keep, you gotta keep everything in line. You gotta keep your lines in line, man. And one of my biggest pet peeves, cut the ends off your zip ties. That'll drive Flacco crazy if I see you. You might look up and I might be cutting your zip ties on your bike. Forgive me. All right, so now let's get our brake cable assembled. Kind of the same thing. We're gonna make sure we got all the slack out of it. I'm gonna start up top and go through that same section or hole that I ran my throttle cable through. Keep everything flowing together, because like Bernie said, you gotta keep it neat. Gotta keep it neat. Go through that top section, underneath the frame, on top of the engine, and I like to go behind this bar. And for now, slide that guy through there, let him rest, and y'all probably know what I was gonna say next. Keep it neat. I think I'm gonna actually, instead of going to the frame itself, zip tie to this cable. Keep some of those zip ties off the frame. Keeping it neat. Just like that. Now, we'll come down to our caliper itself. Need a 10mm. Gonna loosen that guy up. So once we get that 10mm nut loose, you'll see that it's a hole on the other side of this bolt. That's where your cable will run through, just like so. Make sure you're pulling out all the slack, like I'm pulling on this pretty hard right now, while simultaneously tightening this nut. When you hit this with an impact, it'll throw your brake lever up. So I'm gonna do this by hand. And you'll see now that I got all the slack pull out of it. I can't just pop my sleeve out. And we should have stopping power. Yes, sir. All right, y'all, so last but not least, we got our foot peg grips. And these are pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. They just slide right on. A lot easier than the hand grip, the dummy grip it is. That's what Bernie makes the spit sound effect. All right, so now that we got the bike fully assembled, ready to roll, I say we take it down to headquarters. Y'all all know where headquarters is. We get it oiled up, fueled up, first fire up. Flacco gonna ride off into the sunset. Boom. Let's do it. So it's time to get it oiled up. We're gonna use 12 ounces of Tillerson 4-stroke oil, the good stuff. Y'all holler at me if you need it. I got it. But like I say, 98 cc, no more than 12 ounces. If it was a 212, it would be 16 ounces, but this is a smaller 98. So we're only gonna do 12 ounces. And I like using a measuring funnel, so you almost can't miss. So if you wanna get a shot of that, Bernie. $12 ounces. Set that to the side. And let it float. Then the 98 is small, so when I'm oiling them up, I like to lean it over, cause some of it will back out on you. It will kind of overflow itself, but they do in fact need about 12 ounces. When you dump that in there, it may seem like a bit much, cause it could, like I say, overflow. Just lean it over to the side as you're filling it up. Once you get it filled up, just be kind of be prepared to throw your oil filler cap back in. And if you lose a little bit, no harm in that. Oil cap, pop that guy back in. Now I'm gonna set the bike up straight because I'm gonna check my level. Run it all the way in, back it back out. And as you can see, I'm good to go. Slide that back in. Then we get some gas in it, fire that thing up. Cap on. All right, we got it oiled up, we got it fueled up, we got it assembled, ready to rock. I'm gonna get it outside, give it a couple pulls and get it fired up. First test ride, so let's get it. Woo! Welcome to Texas. Fuel is on. He's out. There it is, y'all. That's your Go Power Sports Rascal Lite in a box. So if you got any more questions, concerns, y'all feel free to reach out. It's gopowersports.com/sales. You can hit us 866-846-5278. Want help from me? Ask for Flacco. We'll be glad to get you set. As far as anything other than that, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all that good jazz. Ride on, be safe.